What are your thoughts on the current Indian government's stance on crypto? How they are regulating it, how they are going about it compared to other countries?
India has come a long way in making sure that crypto does not die in India and it continues to grow. In reality, our demands have also been slightly unfair. When you ask the government to regulate all of crypto, it's like asking the government to regulate all of finance. Inside of finance, there is currency, there is security, there is insurance, there is credit. And as we know in India, there are various different regulators for all of that. In reality, what we want is that we want to pick and choose individual use cases and start asking for clear regulations around that. And if you look at what's happening world over, like if you look at US with the passing of the Genius Act, individual use cases of cryptocurrencies are being established and those are then being regulated.
If you have to suggest, like, where do you think the government should start?
What we don't have is...
So, hello everyone. Today we have with us Mr. Edul Patel from CEO, co-founder Mudrex, one of the leading crypto platforms in India. And today we'll be discussing about the regulatory scope of cryptocurrency in India, how regulations are panning out, what are the challenges that crypto platforms are facing in absence of those, and more. So, yeah. Okay. Hi, Edul. How are you doing?
Hey,
Good to see you. So, starting off with the regulation stuff, what are your thoughts on the current Indian government's stance on crypto? How they are regulating it? How they are going about it compared to other countries like with America, Europe, or even Asia, like Hong Kong, Singapore are doing much better in terms of regulations.
firstly, I would like to say just broadly, India has come a long way in making sure that crypto does not die in India and it continues to grow. We started off with clear taxation setup. Then we started off with the FIU registering various different exchanges and entities that deal in transacting crypto, so that there is a clear understanding of to what crypto is being used for. That's the first part. The second part that we want to say is that in reality, our demands have also been slightly unfair. When you ask the government to regulate all of crypto, it's like asking the government to regulate all of finance, because really crypto is all of finance. And inside of finance, there is currency, there is security, there is insurance, there is credit. And as we know in India, there are various different regulators for all of that, right? Like there is a SEC, so there's a SEBI, which is a securities regulator, the RBI, the currency regulator, the IRDAI, which is the insurance regulator, and so on and so forth. So asking the government to come up with a single regulator for all of crypto, in my opinion, is a very unfair ask. And in reality, what we want is that we want to pick and choose individual use cases and start asking for clear regulations around that. And if you look at what's happening world over, like if you look at US with the passing of the Genius Act and with the Clarity Act coming into picture, what's happening is that individual use cases of cryptocurrencies are being established and those are then being regulated. The same has happened in EU, the same has happened in Singapore. And I think that approach is a more prudent and measured approach because it gives the required set of protections that are needed to consumers, as well as a clear playground for entities to work in, especially in those areas where use cases are clearly developed. In my opinion, the biggest use case of crypto today from India perspective is for stablecoins. Stablecoins are changing dramatically how cross-border money movement is happening. India is the largest remittance receiving country in the world across import, export, and individual remittances. India does $1.7 trillion in remittances annually. And I think that about $25 to $30 billion can be saved in just banking fees if we are able to move more and more and more of remittances to products like stablecoins, which are just a better and more efficient utilization of the technology. So that's what I believe, that asking for a blanket broad regulation will be unfair. We would want to go down narrowly into individual buckets.
As you mentioned, I mean, a broad sweeping regulations can't be the exact solution for the market right now. So, but you would, if you have to suggest, like, where do you think the government should start? Like, there's nothing right now.
Actually, from a regulatory standpoint, what entities need to do is already being followed. But what we don't have is the clear blessing of a regulator, which means that what we don't have is the confidence of retail investors to invest. And the lack of a regulator actually diminishes user demand. So, of course, having a clear regulator for exchanges will be great, and that will help us build user demand and build more on user education. Because I think at this point in time, the biggest challenge for growing the market in India that exchanges are facing is not regulation, but it's actually lack of education and information in the broader market. And improving that spread is a necessary thing for us to do. And that's where, in my opinion, regulations can have the biggest impact. They can help us broaden the market by actually helping the broader market understand and learn more about cryptocurrency and how they can use the technology for a wide variety of financial use cases, as well as use the underlying asset to grow it.
Right, right. So when it comes to compliance, when you see foreign exchanges trying to become FIU compliant, like a number of foreign exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, and others are trying to enter the India. At the same time, they mentioned a lot of times that it's one of the challenging markets. So where do you see their interest versus the fact that they mentioned the market is challenging? Is it just that our market is so big, they want a piece of it, even when it is a challenging landscape to navigate?
Correct. No, I think there is no doubt that the Indian trading and the Indian trading market is one of the largest markets out there, right? Like we've seen that with equities, where NSE is actually one of the largest derivatives exchanges in the world. And we see that regularly happening, at least on that side of the world. And on the other end, we also see demand for crypto in India to be high. Multiple platforms like Chain Analysis continue to report that India is the number one place where crypto adoption is growing. So I think all these other global exchanges definitely want to take a part in the India market. As the India market grows and becomes much larger, it's poised to be the largest market for most of these players. So the option value of not being in India is too high for them to lose out on. At the same time, the market is very competitive. It is very dynamic. There are large players like us who are competing actively and have captured market share in India. But I feel personally that the incoming of global large exchanges is a very large positive signal, and it only help us grow the market and educate the local audience better. So I more than welcome everyone who is coming to participate.
Yeah, good to know that. And when we talk about engaging with, let's say, regulators, like as a market leader, you must have gotten meetings with the government officials or let's say even regulators. What are the kind of discussions on during those meetings? Like, what are their point of view from a regulation, from the crypto market point of side, and what are your discussion points? What do you want to convey to them that what they should be doing to make the market more open and more cost?
Correct. So we individually meet as well as we meet as a part of the association with various different bodies. The intent of most such conversations, again, is education. It's about helping them understand what's happening in crypto, what is the ground reality, what are challenges that we are facing, what are challenges that users are facing, and what can be done to improve that. And to be honest, we've been pleasantly surprised at the level of acceptance that most of these meetings show us. They show us that the curiosity is there, the intent to learn is there, and the intent to understand is there. But as we discussed earlier, regulating something as wide as crypto, equivalent of saying that regulating something as wide as finance is complicated. So you want to be measured when you take these directional decisions. And that's what I think most bodies are trying to do. They're just trying to learn more and understand more before they come out with something.
But let's say, I mean, how long do you think it would take them? Like, because from what I can remember, since 2019 or 20, ever since the banking ban got overhauled and the court asked them to come up with regulations, they have been promising to do so. I think in 2023, they even tabled a crypto-related bill in the parliament, but it wasn't discussed. So how do you think? How long do you think it would take for them to come around? When you say, they're trying to understand or educate themselves. So how long do you think that?
As I said, also regulations take time. It's not something that can be done overnight. In fact, like if you look at the history of India forming clear, large regulatory changes, the last very recent large example that comes to my mind is the DPTP Act. The DPTP Act took more than 5 years through actual various consultative process to come into force. And I think things like regulations and a regulator require that amount of time. So it is better not to rush into it. And that's what the government has done, right? They've created a large enough sandbox for people to play and grow. But at the same time, they are taking a measured stance of going into it. I don't expect any regulations per se to come in the next couple of years or so. What I do expect is to continuously see clarity emerge. So continuously see government become more open, the RBI become more open, various regulators become more open. And whether it will be the same regulator that comes in, whether existing regulators modify current laws to incorporate virtual digital assets into their framework, that's an active debate, and we will only see how this pans out.
Right. Now coming to the technical side of it, like when as an exchange or platform, like after the banking ban was removed, how easy it was for you to integrate off-roading
It's
services
never
like
easy to do that. It's more easy to do that because it's not like, even if the official banking ban was removed, most banks are very hesitant to work with crypto companies. And that's because of, in the past, a lot of crypto companies have been platforms through which a lot of monies have moved in illegitimate formats. So banks are very hesitant. So as a result, it takes a lot of effort to convince a bank to work with you. And that's always a hard problem. But I'm proud to say that Mudrex is one of those platforms that is the only platform in India through which you can do UPI deposits, bank deposits, get instant deposits and instant withdrawals. And that's because we've worked very closely with multiple banking partners to give them the comfort that whatever we are doing is regulatory, kosher, and clear. So that's an ongoing challenge and an ongoing problem, and will continue.
right. But I mean, as you mentioned, like it is challenging for like banks to integrate with crypto services. Even as an end user, people have faced like a lot of difficulty. Like many people's bank accounts got banned or frozen by the higher banks, so claiming that whatever they were doing was illegal under uh, government norms. So how do you see those cases, like when
So I think
something people are being faced?
that's a struggle that people need to face in India, and it's not only crypto companies. It's like every single company in the country faces these struggles. And I think if you look at what's happening in India, the rate at which digital transactions have grown is just insane, and UPI has just brought everything to the forefront. But digital transaction growth always comes with growing fraud, because instant digital transactions are a dream of a fraudster, right? So it's not crypto, but it's UPI that's causing global fraud to grow. And as a consequence of that, we don't have systems for fraud coverage and fraud protection, and those systems are growing. And all of this is growing together, which is what's causing these pain problems, not only to crypto companies, but to, in general, all kinds of payment companies and all kinds of companies that are involved in money movement. Of course, the impact on crypto is much more because the broader perception also historically was that this is something that we don't want to do. But it's improving as we speak. And perception changes are hard things for companies like us to do, but we work towards doing that again and again and again by working very closely with the actual people involved in banks for this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would take time, but eventually, hopefully, it would come around. So when it comes to like user protection, like over the past year itself, we have seen two of the major exchanges in India got hacked. One was OCDEX for like about 30 million, and CoinDC recently for like 45 or 43 million. And in both the cases, it was like a third-party breach. I mean, at least what initial reports claim, that either a custodian or someone else got compromised and led to the breach. So, for those instances, what kind of measures as an exchange or a platform you guys take or initiate to ensure that it doesn't happen?
Yeah. So I think firstly, as an exchange, if you don't custody at least $1 billion of assets, I think you doing self-custody by yourself is just ridiculous. The cost of doing self-custody is very high. The infrastructure that you need to build, the people you need to train, the wallet management that you need to do to just manage your own assets under your own custody is extremely expensive, and no one should be doing it, in my opinion. The right thing to do, at least that's what we follow, is that you should just partner with global large custodians. Keep your funds and your users' funds parked with global large custodians who are experts in managing crypto assets and who provide access to those crypto assets then via a layer of APIs, which are much easier to secure. So that's the model that we follow. We work very closely with some of the largest custodians in the world who custody all assets of our users. They provide us access to those users, to those funds via APIs. Those APIs are very clearly whitelisted, have very large limits on them that prevent any leakage. And the principle that we follow is that, see, everyone at some point is going to be hacked. what can you do to prevent the losses from being large? And under that premise, we want to continue to make sure that not only our infrastructure and our assets are safe, but even in the case of access being leaked, monies can only move to certain places and only so much money can be. That limits the surface of impact, and it limits the kind of things that can happen on your platform. So I think that's very important. And that's the process that we follow.
Right. And when we talk about the future outlook in terms of like, what do you expect from your government, like let's say in the years to, I mean, make sure India is at least one of the aspiring crypto capitals in the country, or at least in Asia for now? Like, what would you expect from your government to make India a crypto capital right
No, I think I would definitely expect that there is a rethink around the taxation. I would definitely expect the individual regulators to start looking at various use cases of crypto, especially the RBI to start looking at stablecoins more cleanly and figure out how we can use it for cross-border remittances. There is a wide variety of other use cases, especially on the security side, in terms of real-world asset tokenization, primarily from a security and bond market perspective, which are, I think, very large use cases in which people can go into. So my only ask is that crypto is viewed from a lens of curiosity and acceptance, and from the angle of learning this new technology and how this new technology infrastructure can really revolutionize how all of us do finance and access financial services.
Coming to the tax side of it again, I mean, talking about the 30% tax and 1% TDS. Like most exchanges has claimed that 1% TDS is more tedious for them than the 30% tax that people have to pay on their profits. So how do you see the tax structure? I mean, it is one of the highest tax bracket in India, alongside gambling, I guess. So
correct. So I really don't see a 30% tax as being a problem. I think people are anyways paying tax on their income. A lot of people who earn salaries more than 12 lakhs effectively pay 30% tax on any income. So from that lens, a 30% tax on your crypto income as well is not that big of a challenge. What I think is too large, of course, is the 1% TDS, because that prevents users from doing trading. And also what I think is ridiculous is that you can't offset your profits against losses, because then that forces people to stay in loss. And that forces people to not lose out or not exit positions that are poor positions, right? So both of those, I think, are more important for us to talk about. The 30% tax is okay. What I think is ridiculous is you can't offset profits against losses, and that the 1% TDS is too high. I think the real path, the real place where we can be, of course, is as lower tax as possible. Please allow offset against losses and reduce the SCT from 1% to 0.01%. Keep it in lines with what the SCT is for equities and so on.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the tax side, on another note, there was a recent report which said that Indian traders are preferably going towards futures crypto trading because they have the option to offset their loss there. So the trading volume on futures market, crypto futures market in India is tending to be on the higher side than the average spot trading market. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, so I actually don't think that's the reason why people are going towards futures. And I've got a bunch of reasons for that. Firstly, the derivatives market is, from a user perspective, is an order of magnitude smaller market as compared to the spot trader market. That's one. The people who go over there actually go for access to leverage and access to the ability to short the market so that they can take trades on both sides. It's a very trader-focused activity. It's not an investor-focused activity. So those are the kind of users who are going there. I don't think they're going in from the perspective of not saving taxes or for the 1% TDS, but because it gives them more opportunities to do speculative trading. And that's nothing new. That's exactly what people do in the equities world, in the F&O market, and so on and so forth as well. So I think the rise of derivatives in India is actually very well linked with the rise of derivatives in crypto in India. So that's the sentiment. And there has, of course, been some recent clampdown on the equity side of the world, especially in terms of weekly auctions and so on and so forth. And I think that has caused curiosity amongst those kind of traders for crypto so that they can also start doing trading in crypto. There are a ton of people in India who actually have trading as their day job, and they want to participate in trading. They want to participate in wealth creation via trading.
Right. So on the topic of stable coins, as you mentioned, like most countries like US, even many European countries are now moving forward with private stable coins with norms on the backing of those stable coins rather than focusing on CBDCs. But India seems to be more focused on CBDCs rather than stable coins at this point. So how do you view the contrast between the uh, regulatory point of view of West and India?
No, I think I actually don't think we should just blindly copy and mimic the West. I think that's a very ridiculous stance to be in. Stablecoin is an implementation of the blockchain technology, and private stablecoins might be great for the West, whose economies are naturally more open and naturally have always been more open. India has always historically been a closed economy. We've gone through phases of opening, but the foreign exchange market in India is still a fairly closed market where it's very tightly controlled by the RBI, and it is done for a reason. I think the RBI is one of the finest currency regulators in the world, where if you see globally, other countries, they face incredible inflation, incredible policy mismatches. The RBI has done a phenomenal job in making sure that the INR is relatively stable and it's in lines with the asks of the government and the asks of the economy. So from that perspective, I think the choices are fair. I actually think that CBDCs have a large role to play, especially in all countries where the governments have an outsized participation in local economy and local GDP, which is true for India. I also think that CBDCs are great for contract settlements and so on and so forth, and can become the settlement layer, just like how UPI is the payments layer. And both of those are very important constructs to be in. And just like how the West is promoting private stablecoin usage, I think India and China and similar countries are promoting public stablecoin usage, which has a very different set of use cases that the West today either doesn't empathize with or look at or want. And hence, I actually see that there is demand for both, and both can coexist at the same time as well. Just to give you some sense, stablecoins are actually just a fancier and a different technology implementation of a PPI wallet, the Paytm Freecharge MobiKwik wallet that used to exist, right? Like it's for all people perspectives, not anything very different. It's just that it's more open, more permissionless, and as a result, more people can participate in using it. And that effectively means that it's more open. For India, under our financial infrastructure today, we want to make sure that there is more control over where the money flow, and as a result, CBDC is a fair ask. But I don't see that we will not be open to private stablecoin usage, especially in some very specific narrow use cases like cross-border trade.
Yeah, remittance is one definitely that stablecoins can play a key role. So yeah, on a final note, I mean, every year we have been topping the list of the top adopter of cryptocurrency. But do you think it's more influenced by our large size by default, and also during the bull market, Indians from all walks of life, like even those who are not really into finances or crypto, get into the crypto market, buy some altcoin or something, and those numbers maybe gets hyped up during the bull market, but the same can't be said on the bear market. So how do you see this adopter list that we are topping?
Prashant, actually,
global point.
Actually, of course, it's influenced by a large audience. But in reality, people in India are no longer investing in crypto to speculate. They're investing in crypto from a long-term investment perspective. In fact, again, we just very recently published a very large survey of over 9,000 respondents, and over 64% then see crypto as a long-term investment asset. So it's no longer invest in altcoins in bull market ताकि 21 दिन में पैसा double हो जाए. It is, I want to invest in Bitcoin because I think it's the future and I want to create wealth in the long term. And I see Bitcoin as a part of my portfolio over 5 years. That's the difference in thinking that's happened now.
Right. Good to know that. So yeah, I mean that's all I have for right now. Thank you for taking out the time and managing with all the technical difficulties in between. and hopefully we'll talk more on some more developments in the near future. So yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
for joining me today.
Absolutely,
Thank you so
Prashant.
much.
Have a good day. See you. Bye bye.